Discussion keeps the world turning.
This is Roundtable.
Hold on tight, everybody. The 2025 Spring Festival travel rush has officially begun. With an estimated 9 billion trips that spans 40 days, China is gearing up for the world's largest annual human migration. Let the countdown to the Chinese New Year begin. And sitting hunched over your phone or your computer all day, you might be more at risk for tech neck than you think. Find out why young people are feeling the strain of their necks aging faster and how you can keep your neck in check. Coming to you live from Beijing, this is Roundtable. I'm Heyang. For today's program, I'm joined by Steve Hatherly and Ding Heng in the studio. First on today's show. For every Chinese person, Spring Festival or the Chinese New Year is a time to come home, no matter how far you've traveled. This year, around 9 billion trips are expected to be made across China's vast 9.6 million square kilometer landscape. January 14th marks the start of this year's Spring Festival travel rush. With this massive human movement comes a huge challenge for the nation's transportation system. But don't worry, everyone's rising to the challenge. With smarter ticketing, faster trains, and new technology, the 2025 Spring Festival travel rush is shaping up to be one of the most exciting yet. Let's buckle up and take on this wild ride together. So guys, for those who might not know, what is the Spring Festival travel rush, or 春运 we say in Chinese, and why does it matter so much?
Well, it refers to the large-scale transportation phenomenon that occurs during the Chinese New Year period, featuring, say, billions of passenger trips during this particular period. It is arguably the largest scale human migration, as some Western press love to describe it, this particular phenomenon. I think its origin really lies in the tradition of family reunion during the Spring Festival for Chinese people. People like this idea that you need to go back home from the city you work and live to be with your families. And over the years, this migration has really become a national event and really a symbol of Chinese culture and family values, I guess.
Just walking around the office, chatting with people are starting to get excited that the holiday is coming. It's the biggest holiday in China. And I hear that number thrown around, 9 billion passenger trips. And when I say this to my Chinese colleagues, 9 billion? The reaction is, yep. But to me, as a Canadian and new in China, what? That's a crazy high number of people traveling during this season. And it is testament, isn't it, to how important this holiday actually is. And I guess that the way it's done now, this massive migration of people, is completely different than the way it would have been, say, oh gosh, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, because now we have high-speed trains here in the country, airlines, highways. You've got digital tools like 5G and big data and AI helping out along the way. And I guess that's really significantly supported the growth and modernization of the travel period. And I think that's a fair statement. Would you agree with that? That it's just totally different now than the way it used to be?
I think it is quite different in the sense that you did mention that there are more choices for people to travel. Also, if we may travel a little bit further back in history, when it was the olden days when people didn't used to migrate to another city to live and work, then there wouldn't be so much 春运 or the travel rush because you'd be so nearby your hometown. But as time moves on, as the economy develops, as now Chinese people don't even bat an eye when you say, oh, you work and live hundreds of miles, thousands of miles away from your ancestral town. So because people live farther apart, and therefore there's a need to come back home for this most special holiday for the Chinese people. And I suppose that kind of explains why it's so important. What do you think? What's the significance of Chunyun for the Chinese people?
Yeah, exactly. It's about family reunion, this idea that you need to return, go back home, etc., etc. But one observation of mine is that in the past, it seems like those long distance train traveling or traveling by bus for some of the shorter distances. These were some of the main channels in the past. But nowadays, because cars, private vehicles has become so common for average Chinese families and households, I feel like self-driving is becoming the dominant mode of transportation. The figure I am reading about is that for this year, self-driving will remain the dominant mode of transportation, accounting for 7.2 billion trips out of those 9 billion that Steve mentioned, or some 80% of the total intra-regional traveling. So, I feel like the rules remains the same, but the ways of traveling are changing.
Yeah.
Yes, and may I just add one more point? Self-driving, that basically means you drive your own car home, and that's not something that would be so common 20 years ago.
Sure.
With increasing car ownership in this country, then it becomes more common for people to, instead of booking tickets, which can be a headache, which we can get into, driving your own car home, it's more convenient, but the traffic is going to be it's going to be packed on the highway.
The traffic, though, I guess, is just something that people deal with because it doesn't come as a surprise, right? Nobody's surprised when the traffic's bad during the biggest holiday of the year. Actually, they say peak traffic on highways may set new records this coming holiday. And in terms of some numbers for railway and civil aviation passenger trips, 510 million railway trips, 90 million passenger flights, and those will hit historic highs as well. It's going to be a busy time of year for everyone.
Yes, and also considering this year the Spring Festival falls earlier, according to the traditional Chinese calendar, which varies the dates every year, but it's earlier this year than usual. So people are saying that this means that the students who finish the school year and are busy and are going home are going to be sort of on the way with all these other people who are traveling home, and therefore there's more congestion, more traffic this year for the Spring Festival travel rush.
So the holiday itself usually falls a little bit later on the calendar, therefore that typically would exclude the students from this travel rush, but that's not the case this year.
Well, this year now the Spring Festival is celebrated at the end of January. So, but usually Spring Festival is celebrated in February. Yeah. So I suppose, the students, I'm not sure if they're very happy about this, but you are being sort of swooped into this big travel rush, which can be kind of exciting for some people. And also, could you guys tell us a bit more about how is this year's Chunyun going to be different from previous years?
Well, this year's upcoming Chunyun is expected to see more than 510 million railway passengers. That means an average of 12.7 million passengers per day, marking a 5.5% increase compared to the situation in 2024. Now, I guess one of the reasons behind this increase this year is that there will be an 8-day holiday for the Spring Festival after this rescheduled China's national holiday system. So a longer holiday would, I guess, it would incentivize more people to travel or to engage in other kinds of activities. And there is another reason, I guess. China's New Year Eve's dinner, known as 年夜饭 in Chinese, reunion dinner, It is really a traditional family meal. It is seen as the most significant dinner of the year for the whole family. So the need to go home for this very reunion dinner contributes to the large number of travelers during the holiday. And I guess there are challenges as well when we talk about the new situation.
So this dinner, the New Year's Eve dinner, this is the most important dinner of the year for the family. So getting home on time for that dinner would be of utmost importance.
I believe so. If you miss the Chinese New Year's Eve dinner, then it's almost like you missed the Chinese New Year's celebration
understand.
at home.
Yeah, it's almost a ritual for a
Yeah.
family, especially if your elderly people, the elderly generation are still alive, right? You need all these kind of concentration, reunion of the elderly generation, the parents' generation, the offspring generation, the offspring of the offspring, the 4 generations together.
I was thinking maybe in modern times it might be more convenient for people to travel a couple of days into the holiday, maybe a day after the New Year's Eve dinner, something like that. But no, it's important to get home for the New Year's Eve dinner.
I think so. Although it can be a little bit difficult for some families. For example, let's say if you're married and sometimes it could result in a major discussion between the couple. That is,
which family's house do we go to?
And often, at least in my family, we used to always go to my paternal grandma's for the New Year's Eve dinner. And it would be great if we could go visit my maternal grandparents a day after that, if possible. So, but every family has their own traditions, and to avoid getting into a fight, some couples might try to get both sets of parents together. So, yeah, but the New Year's Eve dinner is definitely a dinner that holds significance for the Chinese people.
Ding Heng, you mentioned some of the challenges. One of the challenges would be moving not only all the people, I would think, but the freight transport as well during the Spring Festival period. And as a result of those potential problems or potential challenges, transport authorities, they're going to be improving the scheduling of resources to help meet the very high demand by enhancing transport capacity during peak times. And that will help to ensure the timely delivery of the very essential goods. Take the train, for example. Public welfare trains with better prices and also trains in rural areas, those are going to be supported to facilitate public travel. So each day, more than 14,000 passenger trains will be scheduled. There's going to be an additional 500,000 seats available every single day, and that's a 4% year-on-year increase in seating capacity. So authorities are aware that there will be more traveling by people done this year, that there will be more need for the transport of goods as well, and they're taking steps to ensure that everything goes smoothly.
Yes, indeed. And aside from train travel and freight transportation, we've seen in recent years that China has become the world's biggest market for electric vehicles. And lots of electric vehicles are going to be hitting the highway when it's cold weather. And we know that it might make charging a bit of a headache, but we see that the companies and those involved are they're getting ready for this, this whole slew of electric vehicles hitting the road.
By the end of November 2024, there were 33,100 charging piles, they're called charging piles, and 49,300 charging parking spaces in highway service areas. That's an increase from 2023, with 97% of service areas now equipped with charging facilities. And this is a big deal because they've expanded the use of high-power fast chargers. Some provinces are building ultra-fast charging stations or have built. They've installed mobile emergency charging units in high-demand areas. This is pretty cool, there will be robots used in some regions for some flexible service options. They've coordinated charging resources by directing vehicles to perhaps perhaps some less congested charging stations. That would help alleviate the waiting times at the more popular or the busier ones. And then they're also providing real-time information on charging facility statuses or status via various platforms. And that all of that will help drivers plan their routes and charging stops in advance.
Yeah, so I guess the idea is that while charging, or charging queues, those very long lines remain a challenge. That's undeniable, but really efforts are ongoing to try to improve the charging services and ensure convenient and eco-friendly traveling experiences for EV drivers. And I want to talk a little bit about this train ticketing booking platform called, in Chinese we call it 12306, but how to say that in English? A platform 12306, let's put it this way. This is the official platform of online railway tickets booking. And for the upcoming Chunyun, it is piloting a function called automatic ticket order submission for long-distance trains running between major cities like Beijing, Tianjin, Shanghai, etc. This particular service is allowing passengers to pre-fill orders some 16 days before the departure time between January the 14th and February the 22nd. And each user on this platform can have up to 60 train options per order. Well, that's a lot. And up to 6 pending orders. And for each order, you can book tickets for 9 passengers. This is, I'm not sure innovative is the way to put it, but it is positively catering to the need of train travelers, that's for sure.
They're trying to increase your odds of getting it can kind of be like winning the lottery a little bit, getting a train ticket. So all this is being done to help increase the chances of you getting your tickets. So you can choose, I mean, it is quite astounding, isn't it? You can choose up to 60 different train schedules, 60 different options. It doesn't mean you have to go on 60 different trains. It's just, you're trying to book one, but you can fill out 60 if you want. And then you can book a maximum of 9 passengers. So if you're traveling with your family members, you can add all of their information in there as well. And it's being done, I guess, to simplify the process and also to help people get a better chance of getting a ticket.
Yeah, to maximize your chance of getting a train ticket home. And I still remember when this platform, this official platform of booking railway tickets 12306 first came online on January 30th, 2010, it was met with great enthusiasm because before that, we used to have to go to the train station in person, wait in long queues in the cold to get these tickets for going home for Spring Festival. But ever since this online platform has been established, it experienced growing pains in the first few years. I remember the headline was, it crashed again.
I was going to say it probably crashed. Multiple times, I guess.
For the first year and second year, I'm pretty sure it did because all of a sudden you have hundreds of millions of people going onto this site at the same time trying to get tickets, and of course it'll overwhelm the server.
Well, here's some numbers to emphasize your point. Officials said during the 2020 Spring Festival travel rush, the 12306 ticketing system experienced a peak of, get this, 149.5 billion clicks in one day. In a day. Now let's break down that number. That means the system faced over 1.7 million clicks per second. Per what? There, 1.7 million more. 1.7 million more.
Wow.
That's find a system that can handle that level of traffic. That's like that's the equivalent of every person in China clicking 100 times a day on 12306. That was back in 2020. So they want to make sure that they can handle it. And of course, when a new system starts back in 2010, you said they'll experience difficulties like that. But those numbers are mind blowing.
I know. And the fact that we don't experience the app or site crashing anymore, I think already is something I'm very interested to know, to look under the hood in seeing what the programmers did to ensure this very important digital infrastructure is well and dandy for so many people to get their tickets.
Yeah, and they've done that this year. They've optimized resource allocation. They've expanded their network bandwidth and enhanced cloud service capacity. They've also implemented security risk prevention measures to handle this large-scale access. So they're doing what they need to do to make sure it goes smoothly.
Yeah, it's almost like these programmers have been waiting a whole year, and this is the moment that you shine to make sure it works.
Yeah, right. And they just pray everything goes okay. So this is it, huh? 12306 is like the place to go for your train tickets in China, because I know that there are other platforms that you can buy your train tickets through. But I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, please, even if you get your train tickets through another platform, they're still going through 12306. It's just you're adding a middle.
Yeah. I think that's the experience I have had. Yeah. Ultimately, it's connected.
Yeah, indeed. And when we're estimating 9 billion trips happening over a period of 40 days, what kind of impact does the Spring Festival travel rush have on China's economy?
Well, I feel like nowadays we need to pay attention who is traveling. I mean, economy is one side, but I feel like the Spring Festival travel rush is more often, or more importantly, a reflection of the social dynamics and social changes taking place. Initially, the majority of Spring Festival travelers were migrant workers and students going back home. But now, as urbanization progressed, as migrant workers began to settle in cities, we are also seeing some elderly parents of migrant workers begin to join this Chunyuan rush to reunite with their children. This trend has led to the rise of the elderly migrant group. And this is one thing. And when we talk about the economy, I feel like for example, there is delivery businesses, for example. It is expected that by the year 2025, the reduction in logistics costs for society as a whole will reach 300 billion yuan, which will provide strong support for the development of the real economy, especially manufacturing. That's the analysis by certain economists. We are seeing some major express delivery companies like JD, etc. in China. They have announced their no closure during the Spring Festival service plans to meet the increasing logistical demand during the holiday. These companies, they have implemented this policy in order to ensure smooth logistics, expanding air and ground transport networks, and they are providing incentives and bonuses in order to compensate this feeling of loss of family reunion for their frontline workers.
When they're on the post. And let me just add one more point to what you're saying here, Ding Heng. So pretty much in the past, when people used to hold a whole bunch of bags, carry them with them as they travel, now you don't need to do that. You can just make that delivery of all these bags, these gifts that you want to send home from the city where you're living at, and then post everything through delivery, and you can just go home empty-handed. And when you arrive in your home destination, all the stuff is waiting for you at the doorstep.
And we thank those wonderful delivery people in advance for all their hard work during the holiday season. There's also the recently launched online Chinese New Year shopping festival, started January 7th, going until February 5th. It marks the first major online event of the year by the Ministry of Commerce. And there they hope to capitalize on the recent inclusion of the Spring Festival in China's intangible cultural heritage list. So lots of shopping to be done. That's why we need all the deliveries, because there's lots of shopping being done.
Yes, and the Spring Festival travel rush, this massive annual migration, speaks volumes about the deep cultural and emotional bonds that Chinese people have with our families. It shows how important the Spring Festival is as a time for reunion, where distance is no obstacle, and the journey home is one of love, tradition, and togetherness. It's a beautiful reminder of how far China has become and the strength of its people coming together year after year to honor what really matters. Everybody, stick around. We will be back after this break.